How do you optimize government? Do you write a one-off constitution and then never think of it again? Why not radically alter it? Why should a constitution written in the 18th century be fit for purpose today when the world has undergone astonishing, revolutionary changes? The great founding father Thomas Jefferson didn't believe it would. Jefferson wrote, "On similar ground it may be proved that no society can make a perpetual constitution, or even a perpetual law. The earth belongs always to the living generation. They may manage it then, and what proceeds from it, as they please, during their usufruct. They are masters too of their own persons, and consequently may govern them as they please. But persons and property make the sum of the objects of government. The Constitution and the laws of their predecessors extinguished then in their natural course, with those who gave them being. This could preserve that being till it ceased to be itself, and no longer. Every constitution then, and every law, naturally expires at the end of 19 years. This is a brilliant idea. The legal apparatus should be deemed lawful only for a specified time, roughly corresponding to a human generation. That time should be regarded as no fewer than 18 years and no more than 30 years. 25 years seems a sensible number, but could be adjusted depending on empirical outcomes. A lot of the optimization of government will have to be conducted on an experimental basis, on the expedient of suck it and see. Preceding generations must not be allowed to enslave succeeding generations via the law. Each new generation must decide for itself how it wishes to conduct its affairs and interests. The new generation might choose to continue with the laws of the preceding generation. That's fine. That's their choice. But it may also choose to repeal them and create new laws. That's fine too. They're always in control. It's always their decision. Jefferson wrote, "If it be enforced longer, it is an act of force, and not of right." In effect, older generations subject newer generations to tyranny, through laws chosen by the elders, but not chosen by those to whom they now apply by historical default. Jefferson then made an important point about the repeal of laws versus the expiry of laws. He wrote, "It may be said that the succeeding generation exercising in fact the power of repeal, this leaves them as free as if the Constitution or law had been expressly limited to 19 years only. In the first place, this objection admits the right, in proposing an equivalent. But the power of repeal is not an equivalent. The issue here is a practical one. The expiry of laws after 19 years requires the people to actively take steps to establish the laws suitable for them. They must take positive actions. If people were allowed only the right to repeal existing laws, this would render them passive. They might well be inclined to take no action and let things slide. Bad laws would survive through inertia." Jefferson wrote, "It might be indeed if every form of government were so perfectly contrived that the will of the majority could always be obtained fairly and without impediment. But this is true of no form. The people cannot assemble themselves. Their representation is unequal and vicious. Various checks are opposed to every legislative proposition. Factions get possession of the public councils. Bribery corrupts them. Personal interests lead them astray from the general interests of their constituents. And other impediments arise so as to prove to every practical man that a law of limited duration is much more manageable than one which needs a repeal." Jefferson is surely right. We need a system that revolves around the generational need to establish the laws appropriate for that generation. They might of course continue with many of the laws of previous generations, only mildly refining and reforming them, or they might make wholesale changes. But they should never allow any law to stand unchallenged generation after generation. Every law must be positively debated and affirmed by the present generation to ensure they have the right laws for them.